trouble.
Okay, I'd like to welcome everyone to the Town of Lewisboro Town Board meeting at the Townhouse here in Lewisboro. It's Monday, June 9th, and it's almost 7:30. Tony Gonzalez is not here today, so I will be chairing the meeting. For those of us who are here in person, there are exits at the front of the building, with the front door just recently unlocked, and the back door is also available for our exit. So if you're able to, please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Now we're opening public comment number 1. You have to stand at the microphone, introduce yourself, let us know what part of Lewisboro you live in, and you have 3 minutes. Okay. The microphone is for our friends at home.
Got it. Okay. My name is Gail Hiller-Lee. I live at 6, I don't know if you need the exact, on Richfield Avenue.
Okay.
So it's between 124 and Route 35,
Right.
which everybody knows is called the cut through. And that's what I'm going to be speaking about. So I prepared something just to make it a little bit easier and so I don't forget anything. I hope you don't mind if I'm reading it.
No, that's fine.
Okay, it's been over 3 years since I spoke to the board during a Monday evening meeting. Since then, we have all written to each member, had 2 meetings at my home with a minimum of 15 neighbors in attendance, with the town supervisor at 1 meeting, also accompanied by the chief of police at another meeting, and yet a 3rd meeting as we walked down Ridgefield Avenue with another board member, along with a group of concerned citizens. All of these meetings promised to once and for all follow through with each of the previous promises to slow down the speeders on this interstate cut through before there's a fatality, which is inevitable. Not a single promise was kept, not a single thing has been done, and not a single response until we over and over and over write, call, email, and show up at people's offices. We offered some suggestions. We had offered to initially fund the police department for a part-time monitor where continued funding would be paid by the tickets that they're handing out because there's enough speeders. We said that we would chip in for speed bumps and that was ignored. Chipping in for the part-time person, also ignored. Nobody answered, nobody responded, and we've never heard back from anyone about either of those things. We were told Lewisboro may buy the speed humps that Bedford wasn't using, but nothing ever happened and we never heard anything about it again. I was asked to take photos, give measurements as to where we felt the speed hump should be placed, etc. I sent that over a year ago. I never got a response. We've had 2 studies completed using data capturing the number of cars and trucks, the speed of the vehicles, etc. But the data won't slow down cars going clocked at 73 miles per hour. Blind hills, narrow passages, someone's going to be hit coming out of a driveway. People are passing cars on that road as narrow as it is if they're going the speed limit. People can't take walks, people can't take bikes, people can't walk a dog. Every one of us has been nearly hit. Every single one of us has jumped into either a ditch or the side of the road or a sticker bush to avoid being killed. For the studies, the town and the police department deems 50% higher than the posted is acceptable. It's currently 25 miles per hour. Acceptable in that data report is 37 miles per hour. That's acceptable. So with a 50% higher allowance used as an acceptable cap on the report before it's considered speeding, we can look at another road and that's set for safety. And that would be Route 35, which has a stretch of 55 miles per hour capped. If we use the same acceptable 50%, then you would show The miles per hour of the data acceptable at 75 miles per hour. That would be acceptable.
We need to, that's your 3 minutes.
That's 3 minutes.
That's 3
Really?
minutes, yeah. If you would like, what you can do, I know that your emails haven't been responded to, but you could send this to us.
Okay. All right. I just want,
If you send it to us, it can be made part of the minutes of the meeting.
The
okay,
entire contents.
just in closing, 1,000 cars a day drive down our road. 5 out of 8,400 went the speed limit. It's on the data. That's not acceptable.
Thank you. Next, would anyone else?
Hi. Good evening. My name is Elizabeth English. I have, my home is in Lake Kitchewan. And I'm hoping you can help me. Back in 2019, I needed to put a roof on my home. And so I went to the building department. I brought the insurance papers and filled out the forms and got a permit to get the roof. My family, we've been here for a very long time, and usually you just went in and you got a permit and you told them how long the contractors would be there. It would be up to the building supervisor to just surprise you, so that make sure that you were doing the right thing. I told them that the workmen will be there probably for the day, and they had said to me, well, we'll come sometime during the week. And that was fine. Never heard anything, never knew there was a problem, never knew anything until now, when I went to go get a permit to do things with my electrical work, and they turned around and said, and not only was my permit still open, this is the part that's kind of strange, then that the permit was still open, they closed it. And so now I'm going to have to go and create another permit for the roof. And I have to go back and find the contractor and get new insurance paperwork. And I have to go and pay another 200 and some odd dollars to open that up so they can close it so I can get my other permit. And I think I don't think that that's really a correct thing to do. I understand, I want to be a law-abiding citizen, but it wasn't my fault that the inspector didn't go to see it. And a letter was never sent, or no, I was never notified that they thought the permit was still open. And it's 6 years after the fact. I have no problem with somebody coming to look at the roof now. I'll meet them halfway. But if you look at the things that are needed now for a permit, which I have to do for all for other work, I like septic and more insurance. It's more than what was asked for 6 years ago. And so I was just hoping if there's a chance, I was told that you might be able to help me. If you can, that would be great. If not, I'll understand. But I think that's something that should be brought to the attention of people, because anyone who owns a home, if you've done any work and you were a law-abiding citizen and you went to get a permit and you did all the right things and you thought everything was okay, you'd never know that there was something still open or that there was something wrong unless you get a letter. So that's what I just wanted to say. Thanks so much. I hope you can help me.
Could you send us an email with your home information, et cetera?
Absolutely.
So if we're gonna have to make inquiry with the building department.
Not a problem. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Good evening, honorable ladies and gentlemen of the town board. Please forgive my voice. I am out of bed just to come to this meeting tonight because I am 100% invested in the cause that my good friend and neighbor, Gail Hiller-Lee, has expressed. And I'd like to finish reading her notes. I would also like to say that I live on Highview Road, which is the first part of Ridgefield Avenue, still technically in the town of Pound Ridge. My school district is Katona, Lewisboro, so I am part of this community. And it is, I just want to acknowledge the hard work that you do, and I appreciate the time that you put into what you do, and also having an open ear for what we are here to talk to you about. Gail was saying that there's a 50% higher allowance on an acceptable cap of speeds in the reports before it's considered speeding. So that a 25 could go up to 37, and only above 37 would it be considered speeding. But the other road, Route 35, has a stretch of 55 miles per hour. That's capped. If we apply the same 50%, then obviously no one is going to be ticketed if they're doing anything under 75 miles per hour. That seems a little incongruous and also unsafe. If the limit is 25 and 37 is still not shown as speeding, if you walk down our road, which you know from driving, it probably is very windy and hilly, and it goes up and it goes down. To travel 37 miles per hour on that hill is very, very dangerous because the sight lines are extremely limited in several sections of the road. So if people can avoid being hit, which I have avoided being hit for the past 4 years since I've been walking the road, I find myself lucky. But I will say it's becoming more and more busy. More cars are riding the road, more cars are ignoring the bans. The morning ban on the southbound side from Connecticut and the northbound ban in the evenings. And at one point, I know the town of Pound Ridge posted a police officer to give people warnings who were driving up the road during the banned hours. They were not issuing tickets. I would like to see if we could have more police enforcement of what are current restrictions on the road. And when they are on the road, perhaps they'll be able to physically observe the rates of speed that people are traveling, which really and truly is very, very dangerous. Thank you so much for listening to me tonight. And again, I really appreciate all you are doing. Thank you.
Any others?
The first thing is not what I planned on saying, but Jane Emmer.
Thank you.
Lewisboro. I had the same problem as you had. And also had an open permit, had no idea. Went to get a survey to find out if some trees were mine. Had to reopen the permit and close the permit. It was the same thing. And I just was wondering if there is a policy of notifying a homeowner. If they have an open permit, because I had no idea. And it was for the solar panels that I installed through the town's program many years ago. The inspector, they never closed out the permit. I didn't even know they opened the permit, but that was another issue. But the real reason I wanted to come today is I wanted to thank you, being that it's June and the pride flag is on the front of the building. And every time I drive by, I feel so good about our town that we continue to celebrate and welcome and include everybody. And I really appreciate that it's still there as an ally and that we recognize that everyone is welcome and belongs in this town. So I want to thank you for that. Appreciate it.
Next.
I'm Carlos Fonseca. I also live in Richfield Avenue. I think that my neighbors have stated the facts, the numbers about how bad the violations are right now. What I'm urged you to do, and I implore you, is action. We have been calling this issue for 4 years. And honestly, what I have heard is basically lip service. If it takes a person to get badly hurt or dead or die on that road, I personally don't want any of my family or my neighbors to suffer that. So what does it take for you as a group to respond to something that is vox populi among the neighbors, a flagrant violation of the laws of this town, and that it speaks to the fact that you, as public servants, are supposed to respond to us? We have been talking about this for years. We have had the chief of police 2 or 3 times at our house to meet and talk. We have had some of you walking the roads with us. What does it take for you to take a decision? The last thing that you offer was to split Richfield Avenue in 2. Don't you think that is very sad that not enforcing the laws requires for you, the solution that you're kind of like proposing is to basically destroy the infrastructure that is already built? Please do something. We need you. My father-in-law, which is 86 years old, walks that road every day. I don't want this to be on your conscience if something happens down the road, God forbid. Can you please do something? For years, we have been waiting for an answer, not lip service. Please, I beg you.
Anybody else for public comment here? Please.
Hi, my name
You have to speak into the mic for our friends at home.
Hi, my name's Ellen Hallerman, and I live on Fay Lane, which, as most of you probably know, is right off of Ridgefield Avenue, and have lived there and raised my children there for many years. And I'm a dog walker also. The traffic has gotten worse, and the traffic has gotten faster. And as you are aware, there is nowhere to go when you're in trouble on Ridgefield Avenue. And the stop sign is not adequate. The no left turn sign is not adequate. I was walking down Ridgefield Avenue. It was 1:30 in the afternoon. It was not even rush hour, which now begins at 3 in the afternoon, when we also have school buses on the avenue as well. And someone came at me and were easily going 65 miles an hour, was unaware that I was there because they were coming around the curve and literally flew through the air because they hit the hill and they were going fast enough that their car wheels were not on the ground. If I had not been able at that point to move to the side, I would not be able to speak here this evening. It is to the point where I am reluctant to walk on my own street. And that's not good. Certainly putting some way to make it a slower road, physically a slower road, would discourage drivers from using it as a cut through from Stanford to either Danbury or wherever they're going for work. And it is equally bad in the morning and in the afternoon. And there's no regard for the no turn sign, and there's no enforcement. There's no regular enforcement. And everybody that's a regular traveler seems to be aware of that fact. So I think that it has become very, very dangerous. And I had a personal experience of really almost being killed. It was very difficult to walk on. And I think that it is an accident waiting to happen. Several months ago, I know that after the fork for Dingy Road and Ridgefield Avenue, we enter Pound Ridge. But several months ago, a Jeep actually went into the rocks right after the Montessori school on the corner and tipped over on its side. I mean, the state police came, that was a while ago, but that was someone that was going too fast and the rocks had fallen down because it's the nature of the beast on that road. And they didn't see it and they couldn't stop in time to avoid it. And the Jeep actually tipped over and it was fortunate that they weren't killed. But that is what is going to happen. I have seen the kids getting off the bus. Our neighbors still have children on the bus. And is that me?
That's you. 3 minutes.
I'm done.
If you'd like to send an email with all of your comments, we'll make sure that it's put in the record.
Okay, thank you.
Next.
Together, the house.
I finally figured out how to get my wife to stop talking, get one of these little buzzers. My name is Peter Halliman. I've been walking dogs on Ridgefield Avenue for 28 years. Traffic has gotten busier, traffic has gotten heavier and faster, and accident is inevitable We just want to prevent that from happening. Thank you.
Next. Would anyone else like to speak?
Hi, it's Letitia Stapleton from Golden's Bridge. Ready?
Yeah.
Oh. Okay, I just want to thank you for celebrating Pride and Juneteenth. And hopefully we can get everyone out June 14th, this Saturday, from 12 to 4 for Juneteenth. Guaranteed to have a good time. I have not, this is our fourth or fifth year. And I had no complaints yet. So let's keep the momentum going. It's the time for us to all come together and enjoy one another and just enjoy the culture. And then with Pride, I'm very proud of you. Thank you. Because that means a lot to us. Bye. June 21st from what time? 2 to 5 at the town park. So please enjoy us. We'll have a great time. Promise. Anybody that won't, come to me, I bet you.
Thank you, Tisha. Anybody else? Jenna on Zoom?
Yes. Samantha Zafiro, I'm asking you to unmute.
Hi, everyone. This is Samantha Zafiro. I live in South Salem. I just wanted to ask the board a few questions. I believe it's the Community Enrichment Fund, the line item on the budget. I actually spoke with Tony last week. He was very generous with his time, which I appreciate, but I really didn't get a satisfactory answer to my questions. So I'm just hoping the board members can give me some clarity. So I know that the town hosts events, like on certain holidays. I know it sponsors other events, and then it gives special concessions to other private events, but it wasn't made clear to me how, excuse me, each of these events are defined, how and by whom they're approved, and then how they're funded. So I understand some events are private events. They're not hosted by the town, but they receive town funds. So the use of town tents, the use of paid town and rec to staff or set up the event, funding of police officers to manage parking and traffic if necessary. I think all these tasks are necessary to run an event responsibly. But when I asked about what the process was for event funding, so what written guidelines were there for applying for an event and whether the town waives permits and insurance waivers for certain events, I was told that there is nothing in writing. So there's no definitive procedure that anyone can easily look up and attempt to follow. I was told this just happens. So in the interest of fairness and transparency, I think there should be a written procedure and a public vote on the use of discretionary funds for privately hosted events. I think this would save the residents and the town board a lot of time in answering questions about the town's role in funding events. And I can't see why anyone, residents or town council, would object to just having clear, easily accessible written policy that everyone can follow. So I know the board has other budget issues to discuss tonight, but I'd appreciate you all giving this some consideration and feedback. Okay, have a good night, everyone. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, Samantha. Barbara Mangione, I'm asking you to unmute.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
I'm sorry, my computer froze. The last couple of meetings and sporadically before that, people from various parts of towns have come to present their traffic issues to the board. And I just want to say, As I've said before, I certainly sympathize with them, but this is a town-wide problem. It's not just one or two streets. This has happened with more people riding in cars. It has happened with the popularity of many different traffic apps, and it's not going to go away. The cars, the volume, and the speeding, it's not going to go away. Taking actions like putting bans on certain roads or no through traffic, or you can't turn at a certain time, that doesn't help. That only puts the burden of the traffic and shift it to other roads that are also having the same traffic issues. So you can't just take a stretch of road and say, okay, we're going to help you by no through traffic or this or that, because then other residents are going to be suffering, and they are suffering from this. Probably the only people on the board who are aware of the increased Miller is probably Tony and Rich, and they know how narrow my road is from 138 to Todd Road. And unlike many other roads, there is absolutely no shoulder, not even a foot of shoulder on either side. There are rock walls in front of homes, and there are hills. And I have to tell you, we had a car come around on Todd Road, speeding, went up on the hill and flipped over. We had a car coming down my block and actually ended up my front lawn because they was speeding, and they went over my rock wall, took out my mailbox and two trees, and I had just walked away from that area. I have almost been hit. So my feeling is, if we're going to address traffic issues, and again, I sympathize with everybody, we have to really look at all the streets, and we just can't take our resources and put them into one or two areas, because most of our roads are suffering from this. And I will just put it out there right now, if the town has ever discussed speed bumps with any particular roads, I would want them here too. And I would fight for it on Increase Miller. And the other thing I just wanted to mention was the woman who came up regarding her open permit. I feel bad for her. And I just want to say, yes, there should be a system, maybe there is now with the new supervisor, whereby people are told they have open permits, because as I have said before this board before, I got notified of this 4 years ago, so probably around 2021, that I had an open permit from 2004 that I didn't know about. And we're still working on my end to find all the information that the town wants on that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Barbara.
Thank you, Barbara. Simone O'Connor, I'm asking you to unmute.
Good evening. I wanted to address what that woman Samantha Safara said about the Community Enrichment Fund. I wanted to share with everyone who's not on social media that the Garibaldi Society of Lewisboro had such a successful event with the support of so many people last year. And we were so successful, we were able to give a scholarship award to Melissa Falco for $2,000 on our behalf. So I wanted to kind of get into the Community Enrichment Fund. Glenda Faber, who is the founder of the Garibaldi Group, had come to the board and asked for money, the same that Pride did and that Juneteenth did, and he was denied. And I would be interested in knowing what the factors are that allows certain groups to get money and certain groups not, especially a group like the Garibaldi Society, which gave so much to our country, the Italians that first came here, building roads and infrastructure. I would think that that's worthy of a community enrichment fund for some amount of money. In any event, it was done privately because Glenn was denied. So I am very interested in knowing what qualifications allow a group to get any kind of money from a fund, especially a group that actually was able to give such a nice scholarship to a wonderful young woman that is the founder of the Italian American Club at John Jay High School. Thank you.
Thank you, Simone. Carol Cernak, I'm asking you to unmute.
Hi, it's Carol Cernak, Farvey Farm in South Salem, New York. A couple things. I do wish that there would be more done to slow down the speeds of traveling cars on town roads. as well as state roads. I live just off of Route 35 and Spring Street South, for the connector to 124. And it's outrageous. I mean, you take your life into your hands to go across the road to get your mail. So something has to be done, and I agree with that. And it should be addressed townwide, not just to certain, like Mead Street, Richfield Avenue and stuff like that. I appreciate these people speaking up, and that's their right. Part of the problem is 684 in Lewisboro. There's so many accidents and deaths on 684, and part of 684 goes through the town of Lewisboro. So what do you propose to do about that? I mean, every day there's a multi-car accident or death on 684. So all these people are rushing to get to 684, and it doesn't make any sense. We're a quiet community, and that's why most of us live here. The other thing I'd like to address is the potential higher taxes to our residents for the new purchase of the building. I hope that you do the right thing to fund this and to do the right thing by young couples who are trying to stay in the community, who have lived here their whole lives, raising their children, as well as the people who have lived here for 60 years and have their children and their grandchildren and their great-grandchildren and not price them out of the community. I'm not sure the blue building in Cross River is the right place for our town. It doesn't seem like the parking is a good issue. It doesn't seem like it has the housing for everybody. And the other thing I want to say is in 2015, I applied for an open permit for a renovation on a building on the farm. And when it came to close that permit, I was told that I had open permits from 1960. So you can't keep going after the residents for these open issues and these flagrant disregards for what everybody seems to think is on the onus of the owner. You have to go back to the building department and ask what the hell's going on. Thank you.
Thank you, Carol.
Thank you, Carol. That's it.
Thank you, Janet.
Nicole is here. Can I answer questions that have to do with some of the issues that were raised during the comment, or do you want to relate to the engineering? Or would you like to answer questions?
We also have the highway superintendent to talk about traffic. I mean, I think
Either one.
It's so
It's up to you.
issued a request for proposal to a traffic engineering firm to give us their proposal for doing design work on speed limits for the two level as a pilot.
I don't see that on here.
So
no, that was from the previous.
It's up to you. I know Nicole is here, so.
can I share that just since everybody's here?
Okay,
So,
You decide, you're running the meeting.
I am going to do a brief discussion, or I have Nicole, if you're comfortable speaking about policy and procedure of private groups.
So I had originally asked Nicole to come to ask some questions having to do with the distribution of the funds under community enrichment, because I've received a lot of questions over the past couple of weeks about it. So I reached out to her, and it's my understanding that there's a line, I think it's $5,000 in Parks and Rec budget called community enrichment, that we voted to, I think, add to this year's budget. So,
Well, I think it had already been there.
but we had increased it
Right.
to $5,000.
Right.
Well, there's a celebrations line, which I think is for Memorial Day and the fireworks. And then the community enrichment line, there was money there, but it was increased to $5,000.
It was increased an additional $5,000
So-
from last year,
So the total amount in community enrichment is
13,000.
13,000. And that community enrichment line gets used for what types of events?
My events specifically. So I've got New Neighbor Network, Fall Fun Fest, Oktoberfest, Food Truck Fridays, Winter Celebration. And then we put additional funds in for Pride and Juneteenth.
And those additional funds with the
For
$5,000 we talked about? Okay.
Correct.
And how much money did we spend for the Pride event this year so far?
So far, we are at 4145 out of my line, so 4,145.
Okay. And how much money have we been able to spend for Juneteenth?
Juneteenth is expected at 775.
Okay. Now, out of all of that does it get capped at $5,000 specific for those two events?
That is my understanding.
And who do you take that direction from as to how much money gets spent on these two events out of that line?
I would think from the town board.
If I may add, we also received a grant from Arts Westchester to pay for $3,000 worth of arts and entertainment for Juneteenth.
Right, but the money that the town is expending that we're not getting reimbursed for is almost up to the $5,000
Correct.
limit. We're not getting reimbursed for that. And that, correct me if I'm wrong, includes tents, chairs, tables for the Pride event, bouncy houses. And then the staff, we're paying to have our staff there.
Correct.
They're using our walkie-talkies for parking and correct?
Yep.
All right. Are you aware, does the town, we discussed this a few years ago about putting together a policy for community organizations to apply to become these town-sponsored events, because I believe, please correct me if I'm wrong, that we designated these two events as town-sponsored because the town can't give charitable donations, so they're town-sponsored events. And I believe there was a discussion, maybe 3 or maybe even 4 years ago, about putting together a policy with our PrAC to come up with for community organizations to apply to become or to have funds applied to their community events and being sponsored. To your knowledge, did that policy ever come together?
No. The approval for these town-sponsored events was early 22, right as I was coming back. So I was not aware of those discussions.
But we had talked about the discussion, we had talked didn't we? I remember us talking during the Parks and Rec Advisory Council about starting it at some point after you had gotten here, but it must have just fallen off the radar.
Yeah.
I know that there had been talk.
There was discussion. I remember
About
that
it.
had been brought up.
And as far as I know, last year we went from being town sponsored to town events this year for Juneteenth and Pride.
I'm unaware of that because the events themselves are being run by private citizens with some assistance from the town financially and staff wise. But the majority of the money a good part of the money is being raised by the private resident organization, is being funded by the private residents, and is being entertainment's being hired by the private residents. And I believe that they're there and running the event alongside the town. So it's not a town event solely being run by Nicole's department. And I think that we had started at the beginning of attributing $1,000 per event.
Right.
And now we're up to
And
$5,000
if you
to share.
also remember, each of those years, I know we've received at least $7,000 donation from the community members to help pay for each of the events.
Absolutely, but still,
Not
this is
solicited by me as a council member because that would be illegal, but
no, of course not.
gladly accepting.
We're up
those
to
donations.
$4,250 out of taxpayers
I wish we knew that Pride was gonna be discussed, we would have prepared. I didn't know that Pride was like on the agenda.
We're not discussing Pride, we're discussing the allocation of funds from the community enrichment line of the Parks and Recreation budget.
Yeah, about Pride, and there's talkies, I mean, it sounds pretty specific about Pride.
Okay, so have you finished? Okay, so we've wrapped this up. I do want the record to state that it feels like we were sandbagged by this spontaneous discussion that was pre-planned. So communications.
Thank you, Nicole.
Can I just make that one comment to the folks who are here for Ridgefield Ave? Just very quickly, just that we have solicited a proposal from a traffic engineering firm that specializes in this kind of work. Because we've got to the point where we do want to take that action, but if we're gonna design speed bumps, probably don't want us designing them. You know, we could do it, but you know, so we're getting a proposal, we're gonna take action. And yes, we realize this is a townwide problem, but we're not gonna do this all over town immediately. We're gonna start with this one spot, test out these techniques. You know, we're gonna bring the proposal to the board, they're gonna have to approve it or not. And we'll start this one place, and if we get positive improvements there, then we'll know, okay, maybe that's a measure that we can deploy more widely, et cetera, et cetera. So stuff is happening, and it's not meant to be a dialogue. I just wanted to at least give that much of an update, but welcome to send more emails.
Can I just ask a question?
No.
Sorry,
You can
we
email
talk
us.
offline.
I've already screwed up once by breaking with protocol, so we've just got to keep moving on with the agenda. I'm sorry. There is a public comment section at the second half of the meeting. Communications. Rich received an email that he is going to read.
Yes, actually, just to make one point on that, as far as just to close it, just to all right, okay, go back to that. This is an email I received. I'm writing to express how pleased I am to see the Progress Pride flag flying at the townhouse once again this June. Its 5th year. It brings me joy every time I pass by, whether I'm visiting the library, stopping at the post office, or supporting our local businesses. The flag is a powerful visual reminder that we live in a community that values inclusivity, something we all hope to instill in our children. What makes this flag particularly meaningful is that it represents the full spectrum of identities within the LGBTQIA+ community: lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, intersex, and asexual individuals. The plus symbol further acknowledges those whose gender and sexual identities fall outside of these categories, and I believe it includes allies as well. The LGBTQIA+ community is one of the most diverse and inclusive groups in existence, spanning all races, ethnicities, faiths, socioeconomic backgrounds, and beliefs. The only people it does not represent are those who seek to harm or oppress members of this community, something I've never heard any resident of Lewisboro express, publicly or privately. I'm sure you haven't either. And that's warm regards, Jane Crimmins, Hamlet of South Salem.
And we received we received a couple of emails from people. I don't know if we have permission to read them, that were against the Pride flag being flown on the town house. But we received I think my last count was 26 emails from residents and couples. And one that we did receive permission to read is from Rachel Simon, entitled Pride Flag in Lewisboro. Hello, Town Board. Feel free to share this letter at the Town Board meeting. My name is Rachel Simon. I use she, they pronouns, and I reside in the hamlet of South Salem in Lewisboro with my wife of 24 years, although we weren't legally able to marry until 2011. I'm the chair of the Westchester County LGBTQ+ Advisory Board, where I work closely with county and the county executive on matters that impact LGBTQ+ rights. In that role, I experience a great deal of support for the marginalized community of the county from County Executive Ken Jenkins and his staff. As the federal government works to promote cruel and dangerous policies that I've already seen lead to loss of life in my day job in neighboring Connecticut, it is very important to promote the welcoming and inclusive ethos that represents the best of Lewisboro. Visibility matters, and the threat of not showing support to the LGBTQ+ community at the town level is a distraction from the positive impact that we strive to do here. I work closely with John Jay High School senior on the advisory board, who is leaving the county to attend university abroad, where they feel that their rights will be less threatened. I wish that this country was a safe place for queer youth right now. Pride signs at celebrations are a small piece of what we can do to signal to folks who are fleeing to New York from less affirming places to protect their families that we strive to be a safe place for everyone and won't tolerate for a lack of support from the board or the town board. Thank you. And full disclosure, I work with Rachel in Connecticut as well on matters of inclusivity. Next, for the consent agenda, I motion for the approval of the minutes of May 27th, 2025, and the monthly reports from the building department of May 2025 and the police department of May 2025.
Second.
Discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Rich, did you abstain or vote out?
Aye.
Okay. Old business. A resolution to approve previously discussed borrowing resolution for the purchase of buildings for town offices. Annie Burnham, our person in charge of finances for the town, is here to speak about that.
Yes. Hi. So you'll have the resolution in front of you, I believe. So this is not a guarantee of borrowing. It's just securing our place to be able to borrow if the board decides to go that route with the purchase of the building. We've already put down the down payment, so this is just a matter of not dipping into the fund balance for the full 2.2 million. We've been discussing fund balance a lot here and there, and just I haven't even been here a full year yet, so to hit it with a third of the balance in one shot just gives me a little bit of hesitation. So that's where I'm coming from. Any questions on the resolution?
No, I've been advised that I may have a conflict of interest, so I think I need to just step away from the table while the board considers.
Okay.
Council, is that?
If Councilwoman Miranda was recusing herself, the best thing to do is for her to be off the
Okay.
dais while it's being discussed
Okay.
in any
great.
substantive capacity. Right.
It does need a vote of 4.
Pass.
So, do we want to discuss it and then table it, or should we just table it then?
I just asked one question. If
Sure.
second. In looking at the, thanks for being here.
No problem.
Okay, in looking at the bond resolution, section 2, and Greg can certainly chime in if need be. It's talking about the estimated maximum cost of the aforesaid specific of object. Actually, that seems like it's maybe a typo. Is 2,222,500. So that's the maximum cost according to this, as far as what could be borrowed. Have you received any additional itemized costs aside from the contract cost, such as moving costs, such as projected maintenance and or repair costs, or anything else?
I
Or
haven't-
moving town employees or anything like that, which may be over and above the contract price?
I haven't heard anything definitive of totals of what I've heard, grumblings here and there about yes, moving, and yes, things that might need to be fixed or maintained there, but nothing definitive.
And a question off of that, would it be acceptable to borrow that money for the soft costs?
Yeah, essentially the soft costs all go into the capital purchase. It's the same as any other
Okay.
asset purchase for like a private sector, but we have
just put in writing that we're borrowing the purchase price and down payment of the building.
And this resolution for borrowing, it doesn't necessarily mean that we would borrow the entire amount of the purchase price of the.
This is, we could borrow, I believe, up to that amount, but it is specific to the building itself.
Okay.
So any other borrowing we would have to do would need a new resolution if it weren't for this purpose.
So just one follow-up question. So aside from that, have you heard anything as far as anything tangible or specific, aside from anybody by way of town employees who might be moved towards the office building in connection with the purchase? Have you heard anything additional as far as any specific plans and or costs referable to our police department or our court at all?
Nothing's been specifically officially shared with me, no.
Okay, so we don't know specifically what the plans are, and since we don't know specifically what the plans are, we have no idea what the projected foreseeable costs associated with it could be.
Correct, and that's why I want to make that a big part of the budget conversations with all the department heads, because I think if we really want to map out a 5 to 10 year plan, we need to hear from each department and we need to hear what the specific needs and wants of the police department are. As far as it goes with their new building, it sounds to me like it would be a big ticket item.
And to your knowledge, we haven't even got any feedback from any potential outside agencies or groups as far as whether anything we would contemplate at this time referable to the police department and or the court would actually comply with applicable law or regulations.
Nothing's been shared with me.
Okay, thank you.
The supervisor has started meetings with the various department heads, as far as I know.
As far as I know, I haven't been part of any of them.
And what we're talking about here is the formality of starting the clock on this bond resolution.
Right.
As a follow-up to the fact that we've already contracted for the purchase of this building, but the down payment down. So there's obviously a whole lot more work that's peripherally associated with this, but that's the task for us now. I was curious, I guess the city's up to Councilwoman Rendo, but I don't see how she has a conflict. It's the building's already purchased. Now we're just talking about the sort of internal financing, how that's done. It's kind of, but she not, whatever it is, she not. That means we can't act tonight, I
We need
guess.
to vote
And
for.
and what does that
We
do
need
for us
a- we
relative
need
to
a-
timing,
Right.
required timing?
So entering or adopting the resolution tonight starts, when we publish it in the newspaper, starts the estoppel period, which is a required amount of time that it needs to be noticed to the public before we can close, I believe. Greg, do I have that right?
You have it
So this would delay it another 2 weeks.
20 days from publication.
That's right, 20 days from
It'll
publication.
get published sometime after theoretically passed or whatever point, then the clock runs from there.
Okay.
All right, so do we know, is there a problem with that relative to agreements and?
So it's what this bond resolution will do is essentially, I think it's going to be paying us back anyway, because with the timing window being what it is, I think the check might have to come out of the town's fund balance, and it's just a matter of wanting to pay ourselves back because now we have that choice with this
Okay.
bond resolution.
Okay.
And along those lines, I'm not looking for like a 20-year bond on this. I asked them if a short-term note would be feasible for this, and it is. So this just buys us really 12 months to really get into the fund balance a little bit more, map out these other capital projects, earmark the funds in a streamlined way for all the wants and needs of the town that we can possibly put it towards, and then roll the note into another borrowing in a year from now.
Okay, just to remind our friends at
Yes.
home and for those who have not spent quality time with bands and bonds,
Okay,
that bands are a short-term loan that are limited to 12 months, and then you can roll them over into a long-term loan, which is called a bond.
correct. Yes.
Okay, so it sounds like we can't act tonight, that we're, it's clumsy, but we'll still be able to keep moving forward.
I think so.
Okay,
So Andrea is not voting? No.
Well, Andrea has recused herself.
Okay.
We could ask her to come back in and to reconsider recusing herself,
Yeah,
but
but
I
we
don't
still,
think she's.
you still need a super majority, you still need
Yeah.
four. That's,
Oh, okay.
So,
Yeah, well, we don't know what that would be until we vote.
thank you. Thank you, Annie.
You're welcome.
So,
Motion table?
motion to table.
second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. You know, we've already purchased the.
So a simple majority in the motion to table, right? Right.
Absolutely.
Okay, re-up.
Okay, new business resolution to approve Woolly Milling and Paving proposal for milling 4 town roads for $34,600. And we have our highway superintendent, Mr. John Winter, if he'd like to step forward.
That shirt, I don't think you can hide.
Not to mention your scintillating personality. Yeah.
So just tell us the overview, what this proposal is for. It's taking care of some roads and.
So kind of make it easy explanation. If you're gonna paint something, the best outcome would be to prep it properly and sand whatever you're painting. Milling a road not only roughs it up and gives you a better surface for the new asphalt to stick to, but it brings the road down. Example, Truesdale Lake Drive. We gave everyone like a small apron where their driveway met. So if we alter the road, it's our responsibility to keep water off your driveway, put a curb, your property, whatever it need be. If you mill a road, you bring the road down, so when you repave it, it comes back to the same surface. Another positive outcome is these roads I picked for this are very cracked, very poor condition, and repaving, overlaying it would not be the proper way, so I'd like to use this money out of my paving budget. I got 4 quotes, the person I liked the most also happened to have the best price, and it was appropriate for the procurement policy. So that's who I'd like to go with, and that's why I'm here today to, after talking to council, this amount of money needs a resolution, so here we are.
So it's a competitive bid, it's doing it the right way, and this is gonna address the issue and rectify it over its anticipated life expectancy, which is what.
Yeah, well,
20 years old, right?
these roads would be cracked again in 5 years, I feel, if we overlaid them. They're all smaller dead end roads. Brundage Drive's a long road, but a lot of people who email Tony and I and say I pay $30,000 in taxes, and he actually broke it down for someone the other day. 23 of that went to the school. Of that, 7 went to the town. Of the 7, you got fire, you got county. I believe the town got 2,700 of that. So understandably, that the people in that neighborhood were asking when their entrance to the neighborhood was gonna get paved. We did a lot of catch basins and pipe work in there. And I feel bringing it down, milling it will give us a better long-term entrance to that expensive to live in neighborhood. And the pavement will last much longer, along with, we already did a lot of catch basins in there. So if I was gonna overlay it, I gotta go back in there and raise all the catch basin tops. Milling the road brings it to the same height.
Motion to accept the $34,600 proposal from Woolly Milling and Paving Incorporated.
Second.
Thank you.
Discussion?
Oh,
Roll call?
discussion, I've seen milling versus. What was the other option?
Just overlay.
Yeah, I've seen the difference, and it's a huge difference, and I can speak from experience. An overlay was done probably in the past 20 years in front of my house twice, which caused all the water runoff from the road to gather in my shared driveway, which created a lake in my driveway. And when my kids were still in school here, they couldn't get across my driveway to get to the bus. And it became incumbent upon myself and my 2 neighbors to invest and build. We had to raise our driveway up by 2.5 feet because the town did an overlay instead of milling it down. So
Well, the highway department's been doing a great job.
Thank you.
And we appreciate all the work you've done. You can see it not just in one neighborhood, but across the town. So we're grateful for that.
Yeah, we never milled any roads in this town before because we didn't really have any money, you know. So everything just got overlaid. Thank you for bumping up the budget, and I plan on appropriately using it to have a better final product.
We have a motion and a second and discussion.
This is discussion. We have to roll call. Dan?
Dan Wildcat.
Mary Shaw, aye.
Andrew Rendo, aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Any
Next,
for anything else?
do you want?
I'm sure if we took calls, it would be plenty.
I think I took a lot today.
Installation of yield signs at the traffic rotary at Wild Oaks is the next item on the agenda. Any,
Nice resident emailed me and they said, they had a lot of rude. Again, we're coming back to people driving, rude and not paying attention and not being respectful driving through our town. I blame it all on Waze. I met with DOT the other day. And they actually said they've reached out to Waze and said, you gotta do something. And they said, if we take Lewisboro off Waze, someone else will invent another app and then we go out of business. And even though it doesn't help us, I guess I do understand that. So the roundabout, apparently people are just flying through it. And the suggestion was stop signs, which Tony and I were on an email with this resident, and the whole point of a roundabout is to keep traffic flowing. So then yield signs were suggested, and I said, you know, I'd need a resolution to install yield signs as they would have to get added to the town code.
Local laws.
It'd be
need
local law,
Yeah.
so we couldn't even do it tonight. We'd have to draft it.
Correct, you have a schedule of yield intersections, you know, within your vehicle and traffic.
We'd have to
I know
amend.
Where John wants to put them, I'll draft it up and you can set a public hearing tonight for. Where's July?
Yeah, but yeah,
July
I was
4th.
gonna add that. I thought I had to go to public hearing. This is the first I've done that.
So here's my issue. My issue is how do we decide that one street gets yield signs and, you know, but Ridgefield Avenue, you know, they've been after us for 4 years to do something, right? And then we've had residents in from Mead Street just a couple weeks ago with similar complaints, right? So,
and they're
you know,
also in East.
East Street has
Down in
issues.
Vista.
And I was just explaining to John, you know, even on Mill River Road by my house, out of every 5 cars that come up Mill River Road when I'm walking the dog, 4 of them are Connecticut license plates and they're buzzing around and speeding through and going around curves. So I sympathize with everyone who's made a complaint about the roads. My issue is that how do you vote on one issue to solve that problem tonight when it's like the first time we've heard about it, when we haven't been able to come up with a resolution or anything for Ridgefield Avenue, and we haven't been able to come up with anything for Mead Street. And now Dan's talking about how, you know, we're looking into, or we've retained this company to come and do these kind of studies to come up with options. So, you know, my thought is similar, you know, yes, Dan, I'm agreeing with you. So give it a shot and see how it goes. And then try to, I feel not comfortable prior to just deciding.
In this particular case, let me ask you, Greg, the law is that you're actually supposed to yield to the cars.
Approaching,
in there.
yes.
So there was a portfolio of different sign types that I think was in that email chain or something.
Yeah, Tony.
One of them was just a text thing which said that state law requires you yield to cars in the circle. Seems to me that that's not establishing a new yield, that's just reminding people that that's the law. Could you do that without having to?
Yeah,
The problem is people don't read.
No, don't ask Barbara if you need a haircut.
No, I have to tell you, but
You need to legislate,
you have to legislate. I know for a fact that if the town puts up signs that aren't codified in their local code, then, you know, they're not enforceable. So, you know, for instance, a no right turn out of a private parking lot is technically an illegal sign, but the town put it up anyway, and a police officer gives a ticket for it. Technically, that ticket has to be thrown out unless it's reflected in the town code.
So my comment on this is, or maybe two. But I live down the street from this roundabout. So the unique thing, and all the points are well taken, so I guess a little bit kind of like the Colony as far as the stop sign, it's a specific something specific to address a specific issue. And the specific issue is to reinforce what people are supposed to do in the roundabout, namely yield under applicable vehicle and traffic law section, whatever it is. So it's a minimal, virtually no cost as far as doing that. It may have a specific intangible safety component because that's also a school bus location where the school bus stop for the kids, all different levels, and that's been so for a long time. So
Great, because what stops on Ridgefield Avenue?
I was just about
But
to
it's
say
one-
the same thing.
but everybody, right, but the one,
And the east and
Yes,
the
but
other
The
places
thing
in
is that
Creekmiller.
people may not be yielding to go, like they're supposed to according to law, but people also shouldn't be speeding according to law. Like
People
these
should
are,
be coming
these are
through the
similar
neighborhood.
issues, right, similar issues in
Those are
different
concepts.
contexts. I mean, maybe we should just mail everybody a copy of the book we have to read when we take our permit test.
but this is also, this is in part a signage issue, because on Ridgefield Avenue, you have the signs posted, I presume it says speed limit 25. In Wild Oaks, for example, there's no speed limit sign. Just for as an example, it's signage as far as just doing that. So I think that it is potentially beneficial and specific safety, positive safety impact. So I think it's a
No, I-
good idea. So, and if, so that applies here. It's kind of unique. But
Yeah, I think your point is taken, Andrea, that there are issues all over and how do we prioritize them? You know, to some extent, a lot of what government does is going to be reactive, and people in neighborhoods have different issues and we try to help them resolve them. But yeah, we can also try to take these learnings and then deploy them broadly. So I don't see there's any reason why we can't go back and at least get a proposal for this law for this sign. Signs are pretty easy. It's these other things like speed bumps and everything. that are a challenge.
And making sure enforcement is consistently
Yeah.
done.
Right.
So. Do we?
or it's motion to set a public hearing, right? That we're doing.
No, to draft, it's gotta.
Oh, to have motion.
He's,
Well, you could set the public hearing out and I'll send you the draft in the intro. You set it for the first meeting in July. That gives you the window,
Sufficient lead time? Okay. Motion to set a public hearing on this.
7/14.
discussion. Although we've already had. All in favor?
Aye.
I'm gonna abstain. You still have 3 votes.
I'll vote aye, but I think we should look at our entire town. Okay,
Anything else?
oh. Are you sure you want to say that? No, I think that's it for right now.
Good evening.
Thank you, you as well. Where are we? Approved agreement with St. Luke's School and authorize the supervisor to sign.
This is the parking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nicole, did you want to say anything about that at all?
The same agreement, same fees, everything.
We just didn't have an agreement in writing.
In your, but we didn't have an agreement before? Oh, okay, the same
Okay.
fees and you're reasonably satisfied with the conduct of
And-
everything.
And you've
Counsel?
reviewed it?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. I move that we approve the agreement with St. Luke's School and authorize the supervisor to sign.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. No one abstains. Okay, next is to approve the 2025 Cycle of Support Charity Bike Ride. This is a bike ride that's come through the town before. And sometimes when they stop, they use the town park, but there haven't been any events or situations. So I would like to approve the 2025 Cycle of Support Charity Bike Ride.
You're making a motion on that?
Yes.
Second.
What are we doing with it? Are we closing the roads? Are we?
No.
using the park?
No,
It's just basically, I don't know why, but it's an acknowledgement that they're going to be on our roads.
On our roads.
They provided insurance. Actually, it's just a very small.
Just a
piece of
small
our road.
section, if I
Yeah, it's
remember
like-
correctly.
It's like a tiny little. it's like
Yeah.
38 going across the bridge. So.
They provided insurance, excellent.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah,
Okay.
that's all that.
and that's.
Have a
that's
motion, a
it.
second, I think.
Yep, and that was discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Next is to approve a waiver of building department permit fee for new sign for Lewisboro Volunteer Ambulance Corps. This is on Route 35.
So move.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, and the next item, item F, is naming Tony Gonzalez as the responsible local official to receive access to the Equitable Business Opportunities Portal for the Department of Transportation Bridge New York grant for Osaleta Road culvert. That was enough.
That was a lot.
So moved.
Second. Discussion. For those of you who don't recall, the bridge grant is going to be giving Oskaleta Road the culvert replacement. And this gives him a username and password to get all the work done that's online.
Yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Public comment, section number 2. Anyone in the room care to speak?
I didn't use my whole few minutes, but I have one more minute.
Get a fresh 3 minutes on the clock for new business.
Still Jay Hammer.
And you still live in Sussex?
And I still live in South Salem. I just want to say, as a cisgender white woman, I consider myself someone part of the community celebrating Juneteenth and celebrating Pride. And I just would caution the board members that using terminology like they could really be offensive if we're trying to build community. Thank you.
Anybody else in the room care to speak?
I'm gonna take another minute. I'm not gonna read anything, but. Again, Gail Hillary, South Salem. I just wanted to say that, I know that, there are, we're talking about Wild Oak, right? Before, and the signs and yield signs. And it just seems very, first of all, I appreciate that at least we're talking about safety on all roads in Lewisboro, because someone's gonna get hit. And there aren't any police out there that can monitor the road. We were told that there's like 3 full-time, and during rush hour, it's really not convenient and we're just not able to do it. We just can't monitor the road. So, which is why we offered to pay for a part-time person ourselves. But I don't even know if we have part-time police available. All I know is that whatever signs that we decide to put up, it doesn't matter because nobody's watching. So no one cares. And the same commuters, mostly Connecticut, unfortunately, but the same commuters are ignoring the signs because they know nobody's watching. So you can put thousands of dollars into signs. We bought signs for our property. These are our sidewalks. Please slow down. 2, 1 in each direction. Nobody cares. It's if you don't physically slow down the cars, and if you don't take care of that, there just aren't enough caring people, unfortunately, on the roads that don't have a place to be. So I don't want any more signs on our road. I'd rather the money be put towards actually slowing them down or police enforcement, because it's the only thing that's going to work. I did note that we did have some speed bumps in Golden's Bridge. I had not been aware of that. I had been told we had no speed bumps in the town of Lewisboro more than one time by more than one person. I'm really upset to find out that we have had them. And that it seems like discussion around some areas are pushed through and discussed openly, and should we make a decision, what should we do about it? Where other ones, it's been 4 years of fighting, and I'm really frustrated. So I just wanted to let you guys know that it's not that we're backing down. We've got a lot of people on the road that are really upset, but it shouldn't be one area versus the other area. It is a town problem. But if one area's had speed bumps and we were told no area had them, and I'm finding that out now after being asked to take pictures and doing measurements and whatever, and being ignored, I don't think that's fair. That's really bad. I'm so disappointed in my community right now. And I know you guys have a job to do, but somebody's not doing their job. So, please, thank you.
Thank you, Megan. This. Carlos Fonseca again, 100 Richfield Avenue. Look, regarding wild oats, I see it similar to Gail, but at the same time, that gives me hope. And I hope that you can respond to the hope that I see on this. Solutions are possible. What I see as a problem here is that every single time we talk about this issue, none of the people here commits to a deadline. None of the people here commit to a concrete timeline. So if there is no timeline, there is no accountability. Again, we have been talking about this for years. Now, I respect the fact that this is a systemic problem. I understand that, but that is not an excuse for inaction. Inaction means that we have been waiting for years for this. That is not acceptable. It is disappointing, it's frustrating. We have been extremely civilized in the way that we have elevated our issues here. We have come here with a road to you, we ask for data. If there is a speed limit that is 25 miles per hour, I'm sorry, I think it's still kilometers because I'm Latino, and you enforce it at 37, that is more than 50% above the speed limit. If you drive that road and see how narrow and how hard to drive is, that is not a reasonable threshold. The fact is that it only takes one car losing control for killing somebody. I don't want Richfield Avenue to be that first case. And this is not about me, my family, and the other families. It's about the town. This town is wonderful. People love this town for many reasons. Please allow us to continue loving this place and having the best memories. The fact that it's a systemic problem is not an excuse for inaction. The lack of a timeline and the lack of concrete commitments is very disappointing. You have volunteered to serve here, and I appreciate that a lot. Show us with your actions and with your resolution that you really mean it, at least for the community around here. Please do it. I don't want to have a tragedy in front of you. Next time, be worse. I beg you. You're accountable. Be concrete on your actions. I think that that's the least that we expect. And be transparent. This fact of wild oats with speed bumps and we finding out is weird, to say the least. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Anyone else care to speak from the room? Going once, going twice. Okay. Janet, online?
Barbara Mangione, I'm asking you to mute.
How is that?
It's great.
Great, it's working. I just want to clarify a couple of things about traffic issues. First of all, I live in Goldens Bridge. I've lived in Goldens Bridge for 31 years. There are no speed bumps, plural. There is one speed bump on Wild Oaks Road. I don't know, it went in quite a while ago. I did question years ago about how they got permission for one there, but was never given a reason. However, other than that one, there's nothing in Goldens Bridge. What we do have is an inordinate amount of traffic. As Mary mentioned, when there's accidents on 684, the fact that it goes through our town, we get slammed every single day. If it's not just traffic from an accident, it's just traffic, and it backs up from 684 at the light all the way past Increase Miller School, which is almost 2 miles. Historically, I know several budget cycles ago, our chief of police did request a part-time officer to be dedicated to just traffic enforcement. Unfortunately, the board at that time only gave him a quarter of what he asked for. And there was a trial period of 3 months with this officer that was put on. And if anybody, I see people looking at each other, I do have copies of the minutes that I can send you. So there was a 3-month time period where we supposedly had a traffic officer. And that's all we heard of it. It was never put into the budget. After that, we never heard of any report about how that went. And the chief was very accurate, saying a traffic officer can not only help, his primary concern was keeping us safe, but also would pay for itself with the revenue for tickets. And again, this is going to be a problem all over town unless we have physical people on our board, not on our board, I'm sorry, in our police department that are able to rotate through the town. Then people are just going to keep speeding. And the problem is, even if we did have a dedicated officer, they can't possibly cover all the streets every single day. It's going to be hit or miss. And I do know that the police chief also said, to make matters worse, that it's even hard for him to hire additional officers right now because in the space where they are, they don't have the allotted amount of physical space to have other offices in there. So that's getting back to town offices and space for all our employees. So there's a lot of things in play here. There's a lot of areas in town that need help. We do not have more than one speed bump in Golden's Bridge, and I have no idea how they got permission in Wild Oaks to put it in. Thank you.
Thank you, Barbara. Carol Cernak, I'm asking you to unmute.
Hi, it's Carol Cernak in South Salem at Garvey Farm. A couple things. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, we can.
Okay. I have a little bit of a problem with the woman who stood up saying that she takes opposition to the pronoun they comment. We don't have to live in your world. You can live in your world and we'll live in our world. And we don't need to agree, but we need to live together. So that's my thought about that. It was nice to hear from Jane Crimmins. That was a nightmare from yesteryears ago, and I hope she never resurfaces again. The highway superintendent, I think is.
I don't think that public comment is, you're supposed to be permitted to attack.
I'm talking about new business when this was already talked about.
Comments are limited to town business and not to criticizing other speakers or people who submitted letters or opinions. We try to keep a working atmosphere with people who have difference of opinions, but during public comment, we do not permit speakers to criticize or attack others that have submitted. So thank you, Carol.
Cannot personally attack someone. You would not want it done to yourself. And we.
I didn't speak of anybody individually. I spoke of somebody.
Thank you, Carol.
Fuck you.
Oh,
what did she just say?
She did not use a nice word.
Should I continue?
Next person. Sorry, Mary, that was your job to say that. Next person.
Simone O'Connor, I'm asking you to unmute.
Oh, God. I just wanted to,
Simone, take a deep breath.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, it just brings back 2020 memories. I just wanted to say that we did speak about inclusivity. I really just want to implore that a policy does get in place. It really has nothing to do with saying anything negative about any group, but something just to put in place so people know how to apply for things and what's expected and if they even should apply for things. I don't blame Nicole at all that it went by the wayside because she works really for the board. And if the board makes it a priority, it'll get done. So I'd love to see a policy. It's been 3 years, I think, or more. So people can understand and not feel bad when they're told no, especially when you put this money under a heading of community enrichment. Because when you say no to one group, but you say yes to another group, it kind of makes people feel a certain way. And I would just like to see that changed. And then finally, I would be remiss if I didn't say this because I say it to the town supervisor all the time. When people scream out at the meetings, I think it's disruptive. So the same way that I would say it to Tony, I would just ask that there's a certain sense of decorum and not screaming, because whenever I have made a comment, and I've been guilty of it myself, I've been admonished, Dan, quite quite quickly, I should say. So I would just ask for respect for everyone. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Simone. And that's it.
Thanks. Approval of claims.
So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Polling of the board. Rich?
Thanks, Mary. It's hard to believe that our Juneteenth and Pride celebrations are in the 50th year, which ties into when I started serving this position in 2021. And I just want to make a point that Juneteenth is a federal, state, and local holiday. So just like Memorial Day and just like other holidays on our calendar, and maybe Pride will be a holiday someday as well. So lots of great things to do this month. So we have Juneteenth coming up on June 14. I'll be grilling again. June 21 Pride, we have that coming up, and June 28 fireworks. So no need to be anywhere the next few weekends aside from hometown Lewisboro. So get out and enjoy. That's it.
So I saw a bunch of stuff on Facebook this week. I read to try and keep up an opinion, and it seems that still, after many, many years, there are many people who reside in our community who don't understand that the taxes that go to the district and the taxes that go to the town are two different things, and they're two different entities. This board has no say over decisions made by the school district on what they do with their buildings, as we well know, because we're losing our place at Lewisboro Elementary School. But also I saw some comments with regard to the knocking down of the beautiful old building that's on 123 adjacent to Meadow Pond. And there was a calling out the Ferris building. And I just want everybody to understand that this board had no say. We have no power over it. We have no control over whether that building comes down or not. And I know that people were saying, well, the town's spending money on a building and on this, on that, and why would they tear down that building? So just to be clear, this town board here has no decision-making authority over what the school district decides to do with its buildings or its properties or its policies. We try to collaborate whenever possible, but that's all I can say about that. And I hope everybody enjoys the events over the next couple weekends. I do want to mention that there are 2 flags on the building outside, and my comment will be limited to the New York State flag, in that it's looking pretty shabby and embarrassing. And I noticed at Memorial Day that you could barely see any of the colors in the New York State flag. So I have asked our supervisor, and I hope that it's going to get done, that we order a new New York State flag to replace the embarrassment that's on the front of the building. And
Quick note, the 37 miles per hour measure that was mentioned from the statistics is not something that is considered acceptable, or it's not meant to be a judgment on. It's just the 85th percentile benchmark that they use as a statistic to kind of categorize what you're seeing in that data. Granted, I think maybe the chief had seen that and said, thought it was not outrageous or something, but that doesn't say that any of us think that that's a good thing or an acceptable thing. We all know that every 5 miles an hour increase, over where you want to be is extremely eventful in terms of the fatalities and the harm. So 37 is way too fast for that road, and nobody's accepting that as a good place to be. I just want to make sure everybody's clear about that. And looking forward to Pride and Juneteenth.
And closing it up, I had the good fortune to attend the inspection dinner at the Vista Firehouse. Again, repeating that it's the volunteers in this community that make a difference. Our first responders, both as volunteer firefighters and ambulance emergency response people, they care about our community, make a difference. So if you want to make a difference and join their forces, please do. They're doing great work. Gentle reminder that if the road has a number for a name, like 123, 124, 684, these are all roads that are state roads and we have no control over them. Those are Department of Transportation for the state of New York. So as much as I would love to say something about that, that's it. And we will try to make all of our town roads safe. And in closing, I want to say love has no gender, humanity has no label, and hope knows no borders. So, announcements. The next town board meeting is Monday, June 23rd at 7:30 p.m. at the Townhouse here, 11 Main Street, South Salem. Please join us or join us on Zoom. And remember, we're all neighbors and let's be civil with one another and bear witness to everyone's well-being and experience. And do we have anything for executive session? No. So do I hear a motion to close?
Motion to
this?
adjourn?
Motion to second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, everyone.